Apple Blitz with Anthony Rivardo and Matt O'Leary.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Big Apple Blitz. What's going on? Matt O'Leary alongside Anthony Rivardo. Anthony, how are you today, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great. We're finally here. The NFL draft is tonight. I'm super excited, and we're hearing a lot of steamy rumors surrounding the New York Giants, the New England Patriots, some trades. I saw one reporter saying that they're predicting a record 10 trades in the first round this year. I saw one other reporter saying they're predicting a record 6 quarterbacks in the first round this year. It's shaping up to be one wild 2024 NFL draft, and I am all here for it. I just can't wait for it to already get started tonight at 8 p.m.
I know I have that anticipatory excitement all morning. I'm just ready for this thing to get rolling. And I think we see ultimate chaos tonight. I think it's going to be players going later than we expect, players going earlier, lots of trades, lots of quarterbacks. I think we're going to get some chaos tonight, which I'm sure you're all about as well.
Man, I love the chaos, especially because the New York Giants seem to be involved with a lot of the chaos right now, which I know we're about to discuss. So it's going to be a really exciting night. And man, I think some fireworks are going to go off in New York.
Absolutely. So let's start there because the New York Giants have some rumblings today about really eyeing a quarterback in particular. And the Big Apple Blitz People's Insider is predicting which quarterback that's going to be. So let's start there, Anthony, with the Giants and their rumors today.
Yeah, today we're hearing a lot, of course, like we were mentioning before we started the show, Matt. Big Apple Blitz's favorite source, Pretty Ricky, the guy who dropped the Brian Burns bombshell in my DMs 3 days before the trade actually happened, told me Brian Burns' trade was going to happen. Today, he just said, sounds like the New York Giants are going to make that move, and they are going to get up to number 3 for Drake May. And he also said that it sounds like the Patriots are leaning towards J.J. McCarthy if they stick a pick at number 3. So one way or another, if you want to take the word of Pretty Ricky, or if you want to take the words of any of the more credible beat reporters and actual national insiders, all of them are saying that the Giants are at the very least calling and actively attempting to trade up with the New England Patriots or the Arizona Cardinals. I think something's going to happen, but at the end of the day, it's really just whether or not the Patriots are willing to move down. However, I think the Giants are going to land either McCarthy or May in tonight's draft, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, it feels like now the draft is going to start with New England because most people have Caleb 1 and then Jaden Daniels 2. And then at 3 is where things could get interesting because I've seen a lot of people say that New England, if Drake May's there, they're just going to stick and pick. I've seen others say that they're going to stick and pick, but it's going to be J.J. McCarthy. And then I've seen people say, well, they're going to just trade out actually because they're comfortable moving down a little bit. And something that we've talked about a lot on this show was the connection that the Giants have with the New England Patriots and the relationship that's already there. If that's the case, if Jaden Daniels goes 2 and Caleb Williams goes 1 and New England's even thinking about answering the phone, to me, that's the spot. I think the Giants have to go up and get Drake May. I think May's better than J.J. McCarthy, so I'd feel a lot more comfortable giving up the assets to go up and get May. And something I've been hearing a little bit more recently, I don't know how much stock you put into this, but I've heard some rumblings that the Giants aren't actually that in on J.J. McCarthy, that they prefer the other quarterbacks over J.J. Put any stock into that, and what do you think about trading up to 3?
Yeah, so I saw that as well. I believe it was Daniel Jeremiah, Dane Brugler, and there was one other analyst. All tweeted it at the same time, and it got Giants fans into a twist. They were like, oh, man, Giants are definitely not going after J.J. McCarthy. Now these are the most credible guys reporting this, but they all reported it within like 2 minutes of each other in a string of tweets. It looked like the most suspicious thing of all time to me. It looked like the Giants just paid a bunch of writers, hey, go tweet this. Be our smoke screen. We don't want people to know that we like J.J. McCarthy. In the meantime, you have J.J. McCarthy sitting down on the Rich Eisen show yesterday, pretty much saying that he thinks the Giants are going to draft him. I'm not sure if you saw that. He had a very nice quote praising the Giants and basically saying, I think I know where I'm going. And then he went on to say, I love the New York Giants and I've had really great meetings with them and spent a lot of time with them, more time with them than any other team. I don't think the Giants are giving JJ McCarthy all of that time to meet with them if they weren't actually interested in drafting him. So I do think that's a smokescreen that the Giants put out through those big time reporters. And the other half of this, this is something that Art Stapleton, New Jersey beat writer who covers the Giants, tweeted out. There is no way that the Giants would have spent Easter Sunday in Ann Arbor having a workout, private workout and meeting and dinner with JJ McCarthy if they weren't interested in him. So to say that they are not interested at all, got to be a smokescreen. I think there's a really good chance he ends up becoming a New York Giant tonight. I think they prefer Drake May, and that's who they're trying to move up for. But I think JJ McCarthy is their backup plan, and I think they're very comfortable selecting him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It would be very bizarre to me if they, like, after all this, like, I don't know, let's say New England sticks and picks and nobody ends up trading up and JJ McCarthy's on the board at 6 and they're like, we'll go Malik Neighbors actually instead at pick 6. That would be surprising to me because McCarthy spent out of all the teams in the league, McCarthy spent the most time with the Giants. No, like, wouldn't that, I don't know. Maybe they prefer May, which is totally likely, and I get it watching the tape, but I don't think they're out on JJ McCarthy. To me, that would be, I think this is all, like you said, just a smoke screen. And look, like at this point, a day of the couple days leading up, I feel like it's just all smoke screen season. Everyone's talking through literally anything with all these prospects and these teams and the directions that they can go. No one really knows, but I would be pretty shocked if McCarthy was on the board for them at 6. Are you worried about Minnesota jumping at either, like, let's say it goes 1-2 quarterback, Drake May at 3 quarterback. Are you worried about Minnesota jumping at 4 or 5 and taking McCarthy in front, or are you confident that he would be there at 6 if they waited?
I don't know anymore. It's really tough to tell, but I think that there's a lot to be said about the Vikings picking at 11 just isn't good enough, right? Like, that's such a steep drop off in talent. If you're the Patriots or the Cardinals or the Chargers, moving down from 3, 4, 5 all the way to 11, you are missing out on a ton of top talent, especially if you want to take it a step further. Not only are you probably missing out on all those top playmakers, but now we're hearing a lot about teams attempting to trade up, maybe even into the top 10 for the top offensive tackles. So if you're the Chargers picking at 5, I think they want to go tackle. I don't think they're going to want to trade down to 11 and potentially miss out on a Joe Alter, or JC Latham, or whoever they want. So as much as I think a lot of trades are going to take shape and happen in tonight's draft, I just don't think that the Vikings are going to get exactly what they want. If they end up taking McCarthy, I think it ends up happening at like pick 8. They move up a few spots to make sure that the Broncos don't jump them. But getting all the way up into the top 5, it's not likely in my eyes because I just don't see those teams picking in the top 5 being comfortable moving outside of the top 10. So as much work as the Vikings have done, as much as we've heard of them being rumored to try and trade up for all of these quarterbacks, I just think it's going to be really tough for them to convince a team to move down all the way outside of the top 10.
Okay, I'm going to throw this curveball at you. There's a team picking at 10 that could be looking to move up. What about the Chargers dropping to 10 in a trade back with the Jets? And still, like, I think JC Latham is their target, and I think you should be able to get him at 10. And then, like, hey, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Garrett Wilson reunion in New York. That could be cool.
Well, that could be really cool. And while I think there's a possibility of that, we've gone over this many, many times on the show. I still think that the Jets are more likely to trade down than up. I know that there's a lot of rumors, a lot of reporters saying that they're circling around Marvin Harrison Jr. I just don't think that it makes a ton of sense for them to make that move, but it's possible. And that's kind of the beauty of the draft and this year's draft in particular. I feel like last year we had a pretty good idea of where certain players were going to go. It was far more predictable. This year's draft is such a wild card. I really don't know what these teams are going to do, and that goes double for the New York Jets picking there, kind of like in that swing position at 10. They could go one way, they could go another. It's a really broad spectrum of possibilities for them, but maybe moving up to 5 is a possibility. But again, moving from 5 to 10, can you guarantee that you're getting Alter or Latham? It sounds like teams really like Latham and are willing to move up for him. So I think that the Chargers, if whichever tackle they want, I really believe they're going to stick and pick and just take him there with the number 5 pick.
Yeah, and that's another thing we've mentioned on the show a lot too, is like, it's so easy to say, oh, just trade up or trade down, but you got to find that partner. And I don't know, like teams are going to, I think there's going to be a lot of teams that want to move up. But then, as you said, like in the top 10, maybe some of these guys, they kind of just want to stay and take their guy. Like as much as I think Joe Alt is the number one offensive lineman in this class, like in reality, if we got to the draft tonight and the Chargers just stayed at 5 and took JC Latham even over Joe Alt, like I can't say I would be surprised by that. I would go like, okay, yeah, I get it. That makes sense for what Harbaugh is trying to do.
Yeah, he makes a lot of sense. He's a natural right tackle. He's a mauler. He's not necessarily the most technically refined of those guys. That's probably Joe Alt, but he's an absolute mauler. He makes so much sense for that Michigan style and Jim Harbaugh style offense that he wants to run. So I think there's a good chance he goes at number 5. But still, I think with the Giants, man, we're just going to keep hearing these rumors of them trying to trade up. And Joe Schoen even said so himself that on Thursday is when he's going to make these phone calls. He said that he's had basically preliminary discussions with a lot of teams in front and behind the Giants, but it wasn't until Thursday that he was actually going to start making real offers. And if you're buying into what Bill Belichick said, I'm not sure if you saw what he said about his 12-hour rule. He said none of the rumors and reports that you hear are actually true and fabricated until 12 hours before the draft. Well, hey guys, we are within 12 hours of the draft. So now that we're hearing the New York Giants are making offers and trying to move up, I think where there's smoke, there is fire at this point. And I do believe Joe Schoen, looking at his career history with the Bills, last year trading up one spot with the Giants, trading up for Hyatt. The guy loves to make moves, loves to trade up and down the order. I absolutely believe that he is doing everything in his power to move up to number 3 for Drake Maye.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Final prediction here from you. Does it happen? Do they trade up and get a quarterback, or are we going to be talking about Malik Neighbors tomorrow when we do our special reaction show?
Final prediction, I think we're talking about Malik Neighbors. I said all that about the quarterbacks, and I really hope that it happens. I just don't think the Patriots are going to budge, but maybe I'm wrong, man, and I hope I'm wrong. I really want more than anything. And listen, part of me saying this is just that I feel like I never get what I want in these drafts. Last year I did, though. I did want Deonte Banks, and I predicted Deonte Banks. So maybe I need to have a little bit more confidence in myself, but I'm more just kind of bracing for impact here and not trying to get my hopes up too high so I don't get crushed tonight. So I'm going to say I'm predicting Malik Neighbors to the Giants, but every sign is pointing towards the Giants trading up for May. I just don't want to buy into it because I don't want to get my hopes up, but I'll give my final prediction as Drake Maye at number 6. Or I'm sorry, Malik Neighbors at number 6.
There we go. Matthias, I love this comment. Want to toss this on the screen. This draft, I believe, is going to blow many minds about who gets taken where. 100%. Like, I think this is going to be one where you go back and look at like the mock drafts from a few days before and then what actually happens. And it's going to be like totally flipped. Like guys who are being mocked in the late teens and 20s are going to go higher. Somebody's going to fall. It's going to be weird. It's going to be an all chaos draft. And I'm really here for it.
I am too. And not only in the top 10, but we're seeing a lot about teams in the back of the draft, at the back of the first round, trying to trade up. I saw offensive tackle is one of the ones where you could see a run on them in the middle of the rounds from teams trading up from the back of the first round. I think that just no matter what, we are going to see a lot of surprising moves in this pick. I think there's going to be players that nobody thinks are going in the first round, end up getting taken. It's going to be an exciting night for sure. And I think a lot of minds are going to be blown. I totally agree.
We got another one. Greg says Sando Dunze a breakfast sandwich. So I think that's a good segue into what I wanted to get into next. Go into a little New York Jets. At this point, I don't think anyone has any clue what the New York Jets are going to do, because for the last like week or so, it was, they heavily lean weapon, and like Brock Bowers was mocked to the Jets like in every single mock draft. And then it's, well, they actually might prefer a wide receiver even over Brock Bowers. And then yesterday we get the Talisi Fuonga chat again, like it's late January, early February. So maybe they will go offensive line and go with the guy that they supposedly loved so much when they saw him down at the Senior Bowl in February. So honestly, Anthony, I have no clue where the Jets are going to go in this draft. They could trade up, they could trade down, they could stick and pick, and it could be a lineman Bowers or a wide receiver. And I would not be surprised with any of those three directions at this point.
Me neither. And that's kind of what's so exciting about this draft. As I was saying, last year, I felt like things were more predictable, but this year, I just don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. And the Jets have so many opportunities and possibilities laid out in front of them. yeah, they could trade up and maybe they do get that playmaker. Maybe they just stick and pick and take the best offensive tackle on the board at number 10. Maybe they trade down. It's going to be really exciting to see. And I'm sure your live reaction to whatever they are going to do is going to be really exciting to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So I'm rocking the shirt today, the draft party shirt. We'll be at the main event on Long Island. We have like 75 Jet fans coming to hang out with us tonight. We're all going to react live on the stream, and it's going to be, I really can't wait. It's going to be so much fun, but I don't, as long as it's an offensive player, I don't care. Like if they go offensive line, great. I'd be thrilled because that's really my preference. But if it's Bowers, Odunze, another wide receiver, how could I possibly be upset with that for getting another weapon and another toy for Aaron Rodgers in what was the literally 32nd offense in the NFL? So no matter what they do, I feel like I'm going to be okay with it. The arguments that I can't stand, which has been going on for months, is the like, oh, if they take anyone but Brock Bowers, it's going to be a massive mistake and set the franchise back. Like, how could you possibly want to go offensive line? And then the ones who are so in on the offensive line that they can't even see the possibility of why a team might want to go with another wide receiver or weapon when it's really only Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams coming off an ACL, and then like Allen Lazard and a bunch of UDFAs after that. So it's just the absolutes get me. I think there's a lot of gray area with the Jets pick, which kind of goes back on the theme is no one has any idea what they're going to do at pick 10.
It all ties in. And listen, I think you can't complain, right? And that's one of the things that I was saying about the Giants earlier today. They're in a non-lose situation. Like one way or another, the Giants are going to walk away with a win here, right? Because either they're going to trade up and get a quarterback, or they're going to land probably an elite playmaker. Or if they even trade down, they're likely getting a freaking haul of draft picks. It's going to be really hard for Joe Schoen to mess this one up. And I feel the same way about Joe Douglas. The Joes are sitting in good positions today. I think that the one way or another, the Jets are either getting an elite talent at 10. I think Brock Bowers definitely classifies as an elite talent. I think all of those tackles you could argue are elite, and maybe one of those playmakers if they end up getting one at 10. If they trade down instead, well, they're probably getting an additional swing inside the top 50. And that's a win for Joe Douglas as well. So both of our teams happy enough to be picking in spots where they almost can't make a big mistake.
Exactly. Like Giants consolation prize being Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. is awesome if they don't get a quarterback. The Jets are probably going to get either a very, very good offensive lineman or a very, very good weapon for Aaron Rodgers. Either way is going to be really exciting. We have a couple comments that I wanted to pop in here. Dan says, is there better value in rounds 2 and 3 at wide receiver or offensive line for the Jets? But we could, talk Giant side of things too, because it's, same draft class. For me, you tell me if you feel differently, but I think wide receiver has more depths in round 2 and 3 than offensive line does. I think while the offensive line class is deep, I think it's top heavy, and that a lot of the offensive line talent's going to go in the first round.
I agree with you. And I think that this is a pretty deep offensive line class. I think there's a couple of starting guards who will be available in second and third round. I think Christian Mahogany has a good chance of being a starter. Cooper Beebe is going to be a starter. And I think Christian Haynes can be a starter. So there's 3 starting guards potentially. Of course, you never know how these guys pan out. But those are 3 guys that NFL scouts and analysts project as starters at the next level, projected to go in the third round. So there is good value in depth at the offensive line on day 2. But at wide receiver, this is one of the most stacked draft classes at the position in a long time, and you got to bank on that. And I put on Twitter yesterday, I went into a deep dive on hit rate for quarterbacks versus wide receivers in the first round versus days 2 and 3. The hit rate on wide receivers after the first round is like astronomical if you want to look at the history of the recent drafts. And I'll just kind of briefly bring up some of those stats that I found. The NFL's top 10 highest paid wide receivers, 80% of them are non-first round picks. And if you want to go to the highest graded by Pro Football Focus in terms of the top 28 wide receivers, 69% of them are not first round picks. Only 43% of the NFL's highest graded wide receivers are first round picks. So if you want to talk about historically speaking, the probability of hitting on a wide receiver outside of the first round, it's actually higher than the probability of hitting on one in the first round. So where's the better value for wide receiver? I think that it is in the second or third round, as opposed to the offensive linemen who have a little bit more of a high variance hit rate on day 2. But if you're taking it and comparing it to quarterbacks, you got to go QB in round 1 if you're the Giants, and wide receiver should be the primary target for both the Giants and the Jets on day 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. And that's look, like if you need an offensive lineman, this is the draft to do it. And I think that's why we're hearing so many teams in the back half of the first round are interested in trading up, because there's going to be a run on offensive linemen. There's how many linemen do you think end up going? Like 7 or 8 in the first round? I think. Hang on, I want to look at I did a shameless plug, but I did my final mock today, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I had 10 offensive linemen go in the first round.
Yeah, and you might not be far off. 10 is a lot. I mean, that's like almost a third of the first round, but it's realistic. I mean, you're talking about guys like Fashanu, Fontenot, Fuaga, Alt, and Latham. Those 5 right there are definitely locks for the first round. And then you get into guys like Graham Barton, Amarius Mims, maybe Patrick Paul might go in the first round. Jordan Morgan could go in the first round. Jackson Powers Johnson as a center. There's so many different options that could wind up going in the first round. Tyler Guyton, I see you have there 31 to the 49ers. So the possibilities are almost endless here with the offensive linemen. And you make a great point. There's a really solid chance that double-digit offensive linemen end up going in the first round, which, as wild as that sounds, it's actually possible.
So I had Alt to Tennessee, Latham to the Chargers in a trade back, Fuanga, Fashanu, Fatanu, Mims is 6, Powers Johnson 7, Barton 8, Frazier 9, and Tyler Guyton as number 10. That sounds insane, but I think you can make a case. Roast my mock draft. How'd I do, Anthony?
I think you did all right here. I think this looks pretty good. Listen, you had the Vikings trading up to 5, which I know we kind of just discussed whether or not that might happen. You have the Chargers getting Latham at 11. I think that's the way that they would do it, is if they feel comfortable with their ability to get Latham at 11. But outside of that, not too much variance here. Broncos at 17 getting Bo Nix is definitely one that stands out to me, but looks like a pretty good mock. One name that I will point out, though, A.D. Mitchell at 28. Seeing that he's really dropping down boards today, which I think is important to note for both the Giants and the Jets in potential trade down scenarios. Sounds like A.D. Mitchell is going to end up being a day 2 pick. Of course, we'll see later on tonight, but that's one player that I'm very intrigued by where his draft stock ultimately lands.
Yeah, maybe the other Texas receiver, Xavier Worthy, sneaks into the first round because NFL teams, they always fall in love with the speed of these guys, and he obviously sets the record for the 40-yard dash. So maybe he sneaks his way into the first round.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I do prefer Xavier Worthy over over A.D. Mitchell. I think that Worthy is a very underrated route runner. A lot of people like to just make the comparison. He's John Ross too. He's not. He is a much better prospect coming out than John Ross was, in my opinion. There is obvious concerns with Worthy's weight at 165 pounds, but if you actually watch him play, the way that he moves laterally and the routes that he runs, he's a pretty good player. And I think that A.D. Mitchell was too streaky and inconsistent during his time with Texas. And now if you read some of the maybe red flags about his character, I think that you can definitely make the case for Worthy going ahead of him.
There we go. All right. You want to do a mock draft to close this thing out? We'll do a little Jet Giant mock draft like we did last time.
Boy, do I, of course.
Okay. Whoops, wrong one. Okay. So I put us down on slow because I don't know if you want to try to trade up here and see if how the board falls or what, but what are we thinking? Is that you good with that? Put us in slow and then ramp her up if we want to.
That's fine with me, but I'll go ahead and I'll make my trade immediately before the draft even starts here.
Okay, perfect. So I'll put us, we'll do it. We'll make the trade even before the draft starts. We'll make it easy on us. So, all right, where do we want to trade? Oh, here we go. It's setting us up nicely. Trade up to 1 for Caleb.
That's not going to happen, but let's move up to number 3 with the New England Patriots.
Okay. What is the package going to be? 3 for 6.
First rounder this year.
Okay.
I mean, next year. Sorry. First round 2025. Second rounder 2025. And I'm going pick 70. I'm going to hold out hope that we hold on to pick 47.
Okay. Let's offer the trade. There you go.
All right.
You got it. Yeah. You're on the clock at number 3. So let's start this draft.
Oh,
Drake May went 2. You want to restart it?
No, it's fine. Just give me JJ McCarthy. We'll say for this mock pick, it's just whichever quarterback, May or McCarthy, whoever's available there. That's who we end up taking. We'll just pretend that it's Drake May, but yeah, JJ McCarthy is fine with me as well.
Okay. Romo Dunze goes off the board at number 9. That's kind of a slap. I think with all this talk about the offensive line, that's my preference, but I still think the Jets are going to go with a weapon. So I'll stay and take Brock Bowers for the New York Jets at pick number 10.
Can't complain about that. Great playmaker with the number 10 pick. I maybe would have argued on a trade down there, but hey, you can't complain about Brock Bowers.
Exactly. All right. What's the move here for the New York Giants?
Yeah, so tying into the conversation that we were just having about the hit rate on wide receivers on day 2, I'm going wide receiver here. Now, it depends who all is on the board, who I take.
Roman, Ricky, Xavier Levitt, Malachi Corley.
My guy is there. Xavier Legette, lock him in. I think Xavier Legette is a first-round talent that's going to fall into round 2 potentially. I love the way he plays. I think the things that he does super well. And maybe you can argue he's a little bit limited and had a late breakout, blah, blah, blah. Don't care. Great talent. I would love him at 47.
Okay. So if the Jets go with a weapon at 10, I think you got to look towards the offensive line. Man, the Blake Fisher going 2 picks ahead is kind of annoying. We did Dominic Pooney the last time, so I don't necessarily want to have to do it again, but do we do it again? The versatility on someone who could play tackle and guard? What do you think, Anthony?
I mean, you love the versatility, but maybe you go for a guard here. I like Cooper Beebe. Beebe's a nice player, man. I really like the way that he plays on the interior and think he could be a starter pretty early. So it's up to you whether or not you want that versatility. But if you're fine just going with a guard, I really do like Beebe at this spot.
All right, let's go Beebe. We'll change it up because in the last mock on Monday, we went Pooney. So I don't want to do a carbon copy mock draft here.
There you go. All right, now all the way into the 4th round.
Oh.
So what did I do? I went QB, I went wide receiver. And we've got Christian Mahogany there, who I think could start pretty early on in his career with the New York Giants. But after going offense back-to-back, I think we got to go defense. I'm curious to see which corners and defensive interior players are available.
Absolutely. So we'll do some corners. We'll give you some defensive linemen. You got Michael Hall, Kalen Carson, Devondre Sweat, Mekhi Wingo.
Yeah, this is when it gets tough, is once you get to this 4th round, the variance on these players is a little bit higher. I know that the Giants had a top 30 meeting with Chow Smith-Wade, but maybe I'll wait on him and go with Michael Hall. Best defensive interior player on the board. His ADP is much higher than 107. His rank is 107, though, so let's marry rank to pick, and let's go with the big, beefy defensive interior lineman to pair with Dexter Lawrence.
I like how you're thinking there. That's a wise selection. I'm going to be really upset. My guy's here. Michael Pratt. That is my late day 2, early day 3 developmental quarterback choice for the New York Jets. I think it's going to come down to Pratt or Jordan Travis for them. They met with both guys a couple of times. I kind of like Pratt's my sneaky draft crush. I don't know if he's going to ever even turn out to be a starter at the next level. I mean, he's a 3rd or 4th round pick for a reason, but I don't know. Something about his game that I really like. Played a lot at Tulane. Captain, can use his legs, maneuver in the pocket a little bit. I'm going to say the Jets take a swing on a developmental quarterback here.
I like it. I think it's smart. Got to prepare for the future if you're the Jets. Obviously, they're in a win now mode, but got to also prepare for the win later.
Absolutely. So, okay. Oh, I really like Braylon Allen a lot, but I'm not going to go running back here. I think the Jets are going to start taking some swings on the defense. So I want to look at, this kind of works out. Mason Smith, interior defensive lineman from LSU. The Jets recently met with him. And like the Giants, I think the Jets need to add more on the interior defensive line to pair with their young stud. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence, great for the Giants. Quinnen Williams, great for the New York Jets. But the Jets have Javon Kinlaw on a 1-year deal, Leaky Fotu on a 1-year deal, Solomon Thomas on a 1-year deal. None of them are really long-term answers and all kind of stopgaps. So I think the Jets add something on the interior defensive line.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I also like Leonard Taylor out of Miami there. So I think there's just a lot of talent on the defensive interior in this draft class in my eyes.
There we go. All right. What are you looking at round 5 for your Giants?
I'm going to need to see which corners and running backs are available. I think it could go either way here for the Giants.
Okay. So here's a look at both of those positions for you.
I think we went Pritchett in one of the other mocks that we did. And again, a guy who's really fast and lanky, has some height to him, could be someone that they develop on special teams, but has some tackling problems. I like Kamal Hayden or Haddon, however you say it, up there, Tennessee corner. I believe that's a player that the Giants have shown some interest in as well. And sounds like one of those players that maybe in the middle rounds has a really good chance at winding up playing in our secondary. So I'll go with him.
Okay. Absolutely. Corner is a need for this Giants team too.
Huge need.
All right. Back to you.
Last pick. This is a tough one, seeing where the board has fallen. We've really addressed a lot of our needs. I like where Endo is a speedy running back. Could be a nice change of pace to Singletary. But I'm curious to see what guards are available because I do like the idea of taking a flyer on somebody and letting Carmen Brasillo kind of get someone to develop, and maybe tackles as well. Let me see.
Okay, yeah, let's look at tackles too.
Yeah.
Not a ton.
Yeah, it's crazy. I used to do these mock drafts, and we've talked about them before. Rosengarten out of Washington would be on this board quite frequently, but man, has his draft stock rose. So go ahead and just give me Cohen out of Miami. Screw it. We'll just take the best guard available and call it a day.
That's your Florida bias showing.
That is my Florida bias showing. Plenty of friends who are Hurricanes fans.
There we go. So Jordan Travis makes it to round 6. I don't know. Let's ask you this. Do you think Jordan Travis is going to be on the board in round 6? I think he goes earlier than this.
I think he will be just because of that injury. I think, but I don't know. A lot of teams seem interested in him. And, I like Jordan Travis a lot. I've said it a few times on the show. 5 minutes away, he played high school football. So I'm a big fan of his. And I hope that he goes early. But I think that round 6 is pretty realistic for him due to that injury.
All right. So I think for me, I'm going to go safety at this spot. And I know Josh Proctor has been in college football for like nearly a decade, but I still think the guy's a player. So he's a little bit of an older prospect. Jets need more safety depth. I'll land Josh Proctor in this spot.
I like it.
All right. This from the great Zach Wilson trade, pick 203. Thank you very much, Denver, for that one. Man. Okay. I feel like you got to take a tackle somewhere, but I kind of don't love the value on any of these guys. I might just use the last pick in the draft on tackle. I might go with Jace McClellan here as kind of the change of pace back to go with Breece Hall and Izzy Abanikanda.
I like it.
All right, let's do that. We'll land ourselves some Jace McClellan. Now we gotta wait 50 picks for the last pick, Mr. Irrelevant. We're gonna go with a tackle. Now, in this scenario, I think the Jets are gonna have to sign another tackle like Bakhtiari or Donovan Smith or someone like that to add more depth because they didn't do that until the very end. They did get Cooper Beebe, but all right. I think Andrew, I don't know a ton about any of these guys really, but
Barnhart's not a bad player. I've done a little research on Barnhart because I think the Giants met with him, and I think that I came away feeling like he could be something worth developing into a swing tackle. So
okay. I mean, this is strange. So rank 301, ADP 190. I'd rather go with the higher ADP guy. So
I wonder why that is. Why his rank dropped. I wonder if maybe something happened off the field, or I don't know. It's interesting.
No, it doesn't look like it. I feel like that would say. Oh, and he kicked inside the guard. So positional flexibility. We'll go Barnhart, last pick of the draft.
There you go.
At this point. So all right, let's take a look at our mock. We'll see which one did better. We're looking at the Giants first. They gave it JJ McCarthy pick a C-. Not a fan. You got screwed. I'm very sorry the simulator did you dirty that way. But Okay, we'll say McCarthy / Drake May in this instance.
If it's Drake May, it's an A. If it's McCarthy, it probably is about a C because there's so much risk involved with McCarthy. Is he going to pan out? Is he not? I believe he will. If this happened, I'd be happy with this draft. But if this was Drake May plus Xavier Legette 1 and 2, I mean, I would be just over the moon happy. I love both of those players. Legette is one of my biggest draft crushes. So the Giants walking away with Legette at 47. Whether or not it's realistic, I don't know if they're going to have to give up that second round pick if they move up to 3. We'll see tonight, but if it ends up happening. But man, Legette in round 2 and a quarterback in round 1 is pretty much my dream come true.
Yeah, I think this would be a really nice draft for the Giants. I like your mid-round swings with Legette and Michael Hall. I think Hall's someone who I think you pushed for some significant playing time early on, and even a guy like Hayden might be able to play on this defense when you look at the depth chart of the cornerback for the Giants.
Yeah, totally agreed. I think that found some good talent there in those middle rounds. And one thing that I'll point out, though, it's really difficult with this draft, like no third round pick, potentially no second round pick. If that has to be packaged, the Giants only have 6 picks going into tonight. You got to trade down at some point, I think, whether that's even in the 4th to get an extra 7th round pick, whatever it is. The Giants just, they need more picks, man. Not enough. Those gaps between our picks are really long, and they're going to have to be very careful if they do end up making that trade up to hold on to some sort of draft capital or maybe get a late round pick from the Patriots in exchange just to kind of make it a little bit of a softer blow. But not enough pick for the Giants. They definitely need to add a little bit more capital.
There we go. So let's go over to the New York Jets. So they liked some of it, did not like some of it as well. Brock Bowers at 10, Cooper Beebe in the 3rd round, Michael Pratt in round 4, Mason Smith as well on the interior, Josh Proctor, Jace McClellan, and Carson Barnhart. So offensive heavy draft, but I think that's really the need for this Jets team. And then on defense, it's kind of just like plug in depth at interior defensive line and safety. I'd be pretty happy if this is what they came away with.
Yeah, I mean, they got Cooper Beebe with a D grade there. I think that's debatable. I've seen other draft boards have him as high as like 60. Trevor Sycamore of PFF has him down at 93. It's subjective when you're grading the talent of these offensive linemen, but I like BB in round 3. I think that is a good pick, and he could push for starting time early in his career. And then again, I like the pick of Michael Pratt, developmental QB there, and I like Carson Barnhart. I'm not sure why he was there at the Mr. Irrelevant pick, but I think that he's a player that could ultimately be a solid depth piece on an offensive line. So I think that there was talent found really at every level of this draft.
Yeah, there we go. So I am so excited for tonight. I know you feel the exact same way. And we've talked about this briefly, but wanted to let the chat and everyone watching know that we're going to come back on tomorrow at 11 o'clock usual time to do a little reaction to round 1 and maybe preview a little bit day 2 as well. So really looking forward to that, Anthony.
Oh, yeah, me too, man. It's going to be exciting. I'm excited for tonight. I will be live on Fireside Giants. My co-host, Alex, shout out to him. He's having a baby tonight. His wife is going into labor, so he won't be joining me on the live stream. Change of plans there, but I'll still be live solo and hopefully screaming my head off when the Giants take Drake May. And, of course, excited to react to the May or Neighbors, whatever selection it is for the Giants tomorrow and for the Jets tomorrow on Big Apple Blitz. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So tomorrow we will chat about what each of our teams do in round 1. Probably we got to clip our reactions too and play the live reactions on the show so that we could react to each other's live reactions. But as mentioned, I don't think there's a lot of room for Joe Schoen or Joe Douglas to go wrong, which you gotta feel pretty good about that going into night 1.
The Joes are in a good spot. Listen, it's going to depend on how they, like if you really want to get down to how good these draft classes are going to look, it's a lot more than just the first round. The first round with these two guys being in positions where you can't lose. We know that we're walking out of round 1 with some talent, and I'm really excited for tonight's draft, but it's really days 2 and 3 that are going to make or break the New York Giants and the New York Jets long term. So not only do we got to be locked in tonight, but we got to be locked in throughout the weekend and hope that our Joes here, our GMs, make some really solid selections.
Beautiful. That rounds 3 through 5. That's where you build out your nice depth on your roster. Yep. It's important. It's obviously the top 10 picks are sexy, man, but you got to be able to build out your roster depth. That's how you win championships. So very valid point. Got to see what they're doing on day 2 and day 3. But Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Big Apple Blitz. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Giants fans, head over to the Fireside Giants live stream tonight for Anthony's reactions. Jet fans will be at the main event tonight. If you're not going to the main event, don't worry. We are live streaming over on Talking Jets all 3 days. So I'm looking at about like 22 hours of live streams over the next 3 days. It's a marathon, but it's always a ton of fun. So, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Matt. He's Anthony, and we'll catch you next time.